God, and He is taking care of us. And they are important for our bodies.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Edward McLean, co-owner of Uzima Lifestyle Center. I just want to invite you to listen to this amazing health presentation entitled 8 Keys to Optimize Your Health. Our presenter for this series is my wife, Dr. Janice McLean. She's a graduate of Loma Linda University. She has a doctorate degree in naturopathic medicine, which is an alternative to traditional medicine. She has a PhD degree. She also has been working in public health for a number of years. Therefore, she is more than qualified to do justice to this topic. So without any further ado, I introduce to you now our presenter for this series, 8 Keys to Optimize Your Health, Dr. Janice McLean.
Key number 5, maximum rest. Welcome to episode 3. We are grateful that you joined us for episode 2, where we discussed increased water and trust in God. Today, we will focus on maximum rest. What is rest? The Webster Dictionary defines rest as repose, sleep, specifically a bodily state which is characterized by minimal function and metabolic activities. Now, it's important to note that there are 3 types of rest. The nightly rest, which is your sleep, your periodic rest, which is relaxation and vacation, and your weekly rest, the Sabbath. Now, let's talk about your nightly rest. We all know that sleep is vital to our health. So, this should be considered as essential to a healthy lifestyle. If you want to optimize your health, rest is very important. Rest is powerful. It gives your mind, body, and soul the power to do a number of things. 1, to be refreshed. Number 2, to be rejuvenated. And number 3, to be regenerated and also to rebuild. So your nightly rest is of utmost importance. Now let's talk a little bit about what the National Sleep Foundation found. When they polled 50 to 70 million Americans, they found that that number of people have a problem with nightly sleep. American adults average 6.9 hours of sleep every night. Did you know that over 47 million American adults don't get the minimum amount of sleep that they need every day? That is true. That is according to the poll by the National Sleep Foundation. And this poll continues. By the way, this poll was done in 2011. It continues. 43% of Americans between the ages of 13 and 64 rarely or never get a good night's rest, especially on weekends. 95% use some kind of technology in the hours before trying to sleep. And on an average, a person on the weekend, because they drink at least some kind of caffeinated beverage to cope, this in a specific way affects the quality of sleep. Now, what happens when you sleep? When you sleep, the body is rejuvenated, your brain is recharged, and it's able to store and acquire information during the day. Your cells repair themselves. Important hormones are released, and as you can expect, waste products are removed. And even your enzymes are replenished. So your nightly rest is of utmost importance. Now, what are the stages of sleep? Basically, there are two stages of sleep. The first stage is called the non-REM sleep. And REM stands for rapid eye movement. So we have 1, the non-REM sleep, and 2, the REM sleep. Typically, people begin with the non-REM sleep. And this is divided into 4 stages, each stage lasting for about 5 to 15 minutes. Now, in the non-REM sleep, it is increased as we age, and it's increased by also physical exercises. Our body is able to repair and regenerate tissues. We build bone and muscles and strengthen our immune system. This is very, very important in the non-REM sleep. Let me just repeat that for emphasis. In the non-REM sleep, which is divided into 4 stages, and each of those stages lasts for about 5 to 15 minutes. During this non-REM sleep, there is, and as a matter of fact, the non-REM sleep increases as we age. And what happens also when we do physical exercises, the non-REM sleep increases. During this period, the body repairs, regenerates tissues, builds bones and muscles, and strengthens the immune system. So that is the non-REM sleep. Now let's go through the stages of this sleep. The first stage of the non-REM sleep, you have eyes moving slowly, you go into a light sleep, and then you can be easily awakened in this first stage. Then we move into the second stage. During the second stage, the eyes stop moving, the brain waves become slower, and then we gradually move into the third and fourth stage where you fall into a deep sleep. In this deep sleep stage, there is no eye movement, no muscle activity, difficulty to wake, and you may exhibit, if someone tries to wake you up, you may exhibit confusion. Now, we are going to transition from the non-REM sleep to the REM sleep. And as I said before, REM means rapid eye movement. Usually, this type of sleep begins about 70 to 90 minutes after you start the sleep process. At this stage, the brain waves are similar to when you're awake. Most dreaming occurs at this stage and the eyes move rapidly. Then there is increase in your heart rate and your blood pressure. Your legs and your arms, become very still. During this period, information is being processed by the brain and it's being stored efficiently. Now, if you sleep for about 8 hours, it is very, very good for your body. As a matter of fact, that's the minimum amount of rest that an individual should get so that their bodies can function at optimum. More than 80% of stage 3 and 4 sleep is concentrated in the first 4 hours after you go to bed. The latter 4 hours of sleep contains twice as much REM sleep as the first 4. So we have non-REM, and then it transitions into the REM. And all that information that I've been giving to you comes from the Memory Foundation. The Memory Foundation. And that was done in 2004. Now, as night progresses, REM sleep period increases in length while the deep sleep, stage 3 and 4, decreases. And this is very important to note because by morning, people spend nearly all their sleep time in stage 1 and 2 and REM sleep. Now, what continues to happen as we sleep? The body cycle between REM and non-REM sleep. Each cycle lasts for about 90 minutes to 110 minutes on the average. Now, restorative sleep, which is physical and mental rest, this sleep is acquired at least 5 cycles per night, and it lasts for about 7.5 hours. The question you may be asking me is how much sleep is needed. The amount of sleep you need changes throughout your lifespan. For example, newborn babes require 12 to 18 hours of sleep. Children, 10 to 14 hours of sleep. Teenagers, 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Adults, 7 to 9, and seniors, 7 to 9. So you see the 8 hours fall right in between there. So your average rest per night should be 8 hours. And this is what would cause your body to function very well. The question you may be asking me right now, what time should someone go to bed? I'm glad you asked that question. I'm going to turn that question over to Benjamin Franklin, because this is what he says to us. Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So going to bed early is very, very important if we are going to enjoy optimum health. Now, there are many research that have been done that talks about the importance of going to bed on time. Now, there's not a definitive time per se, but we can make some assertions from what the research tells us. And this is what it says. Sleep quality changes as the night wears on. Your non-REM sleep dominates early in the night cycle. That is your deeper and more restorative sleep. And then it shifts from the non-REM to the REM sleep, which occurs at certain times in the night, regardless of when you go to sleep. So, deducing from what they have said to us, we can conclude that going to bed earlier, where you get your non-REM sleep, is more beneficial to your body. And to support what they have said, this is what one of my favorite authors said. She says, I know from the testimony given me from time to time that sleep is worth far more before midnight. You heard me correctly. Before midnight. As a matter of fact, she continues, 2 hours of good sleep before 12 o'clock is worth more than 4 hours after 12 o'clock. So you get more benefit from going to bed earlier. The rest you get after midnight diminishes in its benefits to your body. If you go to bed earlier, you get twice as much restorative benefits from your sleep. Another question you may be asking me, does it really matter what time I go to sleep as long as I get enough sleep? Yes, I'm glad you asked that question too. Because we are told that at 10 p.m., the body shifts to repair and restoration mode. So, going back to what I mentioned earlier, if you go to bed earlier, before midnight, then your body will do more repair and restoration. Now, between the hours of 10 and 2, the deepest and most regenerative sleep takes place. If you are chronically deprived of sleep during these hours, you are likely on the following day to feel fatigue and your energy level would wane. Now, this comes from Dr. Chardy, and he is a neurologist. So, you have it very clearly, the importance of going to bed early. Now, when we go to bed early, let me just back up a little bit. We talked about the benefits of going to bed early. Now, the flip side of that is what happens when we are sleep deprived. You know for a fact that when you go to bed late and you don't get quality sleep, the next day you don't feel yourself. Irritability sets in, and I need to let you know that cognitive impairment takes place. You have memory lapses, your judgment is impaired, you may even have symptoms of ADHD, and your immune system is compromised. There are lots of things that happen when you don't get enough sleep. Increased reaction time, for example. Decreased accuracy if you're doing math or any kind of technical analysis. Then you may have tremors in your hand. You may feel achy. All of these things happen when you don't have enough sleep. And it's important to note, in terms of children, when they do not have enough sleep, their growth is suppressed. So it's important to get as much rest as possible because sleep deprivation affects all aspects of our body. Sleep deprivation also is a precursor to obesity, or there is a link between sleep deprivation and obesity. Now, individuals that get 7 hours of sleep at night can have some serious challenges with managing their weight. They can be at risk for diabetes, hypertension, and cancer. It can also affect the mental health. Adults who sleep the least appear to be most likely to gain weight and to become obese. And that is a statement that comes from the Washington Post, and that is 2005. Sleep deprivation also impacts our blood pressure. Sleeping less than 6 hours a night seems to increase our blood pressure. Over time, when we have a lack of sleep, this can also affect our ability to resist stress hormones that lead to high blood pressure as well. Sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night may play a role in the treatment and prevention of blood pressure. So you see here, if you sleep a longer time, then your blood pressure would be stabilized. I was running a little ahead of myself there. So let me clarify that. Sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night may play a role in helping you to reduce your risk and thus prevent high blood pressure. And this comes from the Mayo Clinic. Sleep deprivation and diabetes. People who sleep less than 5 hours a night are more predisposed to prediabetes. And prediabetes is the early stages of diabetes. You can work towards reducing your risk of becoming diabetic, but you need to rest. Because when you rest, your body is able to restore itself and is able to function well. Rotating shift workers also are at a higher risk for things like diabetes and overweight and so forth. And this is because their sleep pattern is altered. And this comes from a study done among nurses. Sleep deprivation can also lead to depression. Or a better way to express that, sleep deprivation can be linked to or associated to depression. Individuals with insomnia are 10 times more likely to develop depression. Yes, you heard me correctly. Individuals who do not sleep well at night are 10 times more likely to develop depression. Sleep deprivation has also been linked to cancer, and this is what the research says. Decreased sleep during the night negatively affects the immune system. And there is some evidence that suggests that losing as little as 3 hours of sleep can decrease the immune system function by as much as 50%. I'm going to repeat that for emphasis. There is some scientific evidence that suggests that losing as little as 3 hours of sleep per night can decrease your immune function by 50%. And so you would realize that if your immune function is decreased that significantly, you will be more susceptible to all kinds of diseases and ailments. So having enough sleep is very important. The lack of sufficient sleep, especially in young people, affects them cognitively, and it also affects them emotionally. They may have poor performance in school, lots of accidents, and eventually may develop mental illness. And this is from a study found in the American Psychological Association journal in the year 2001. What does it mean then for shift workers, people who have to work at night? Now, very, very important, a study by the Centers for Disease Control stated that anyone who follows a work schedule that is outside the 9 to 5 business hours is at risk for all kinds of diseases. Did you know that there are over 15 million Americans that fall in that category? They work at nights, and so they can be severely impacted because of loss of sleep. The ideal amount of sleep is very, very important. Sometimes we think that we can survive with just a few hours of sleep during the week, and then we'll catch up on our rest during the weekend. But listen to what Dr. Walker said. The idea that you can learn to work at night and sleep during the day is just not going to work. You just can't do that and expect to be at your best. Let me repeat that quote. The idea that you can learn to work at night and sleep during the day would not work. You just can't do that and be at your best. Those are words from Dr. Walker, who is a neurologist, and he is from the University of California in Berkeley. And that statement was made in 2014. Now, shift workers. Because they work at night, they have an increased risk of heart disease and stroke by 40%. They have a 50% increased risk for diabetes, more likely to suffer depression and other mood disorders, increased risk of obesity. There is also the increased risk of peptic ulcers or acid reflux, increased risk of miscarriages for women, and delivery complication. Also, if you work late at nights, you're not getting your rest, then people, especially young girls, can have irregular periods. Can you make up for lost sleep? I asked that question earlier, and we got some answers. But there is more to that. Sleep death is defined as the hours of sleep you are missing each night. One study concluded that 3 to 4 hours of sleep debt per week affects the ability to process carbohydrates and manage the stress, and there can be increased infections as well. So you can't make up for lost sleep. It's important that you get enough sleep every night. Some people may argue, I don't get all the sleep I need, but I feel fine. Is there a problem? All right. You may be correct. But after a short while, with lack of sleep, fatigue may set in, and you may start feeling things like lightheadedness and so forth. Those deliberate deprivation of sleep, research found, affects your mood, your alertness, your physical performance, and even your awareness of things around you may be significantly decreased. And this is research from the National Sleep Foundation. So yes, sleep deprivation does affect every aspect of your life. You may think that it's okay if you don't get enough rest, but when this accumulates, it impacts your health in a very direct way. Listen to what the American Sleep Association noted. We don't seem to adapt to getting less sleep than we need. While we may get used to sleep deprivation schedule, our judgment, our reaction time, and our functions are still impaired. So there are direct impact if you don't get enough sleep. Does sleep medication help? Some people may turn to sleep medication, but this is what sleep medications do. They produce the unconsciousness, but often they decrease the rapid eye movement sleep. It does not result in feeling refreshed and energetic. And lastly, it suppresses dreams, which may divide a natural outlet. Let me just say that again. It suppresses dreams, which may provide a natural outlet for the pressure and the tension that builds up during the day. Some people may ask, does alcohol induce sleep? Well, alcohol is altogether not good for your body. Sometimes it helps people to fall asleep, but that is a light sleep. It results in less deep REM sleep, and alcohol robs an individual of restorative sleep. When you sleep at night, you want your body to rest and regenerate, your cells replenish, and your entire body will feel well the next day. But if you take alcoholic beverage, that deprives you of that quality sleep that your body needs. Now, we do know the importance of the sleep hormone melatonin. This hormone controls your sleep-wake cycle. Exposure to daylight suppresses melatonin production. So, it is important when you go to bed at night to make sure your room is as dark as possible. The levels rise in the mid to late evening and then drops in the early AM. Levels slowly drop with age, so some older adults may make little or no melatonin. And melatonin is important for our sleep and wake cycle. So it's important that your body creates enough melatonin. Treating sleep as a priority rather than a luxury may be an important step in preventing a number of chronic medical conditions. And that comes from the Harvard Medical School Division of Sleep Medicine. Now, very, very important, I want us to pay attention to this. Put your sleep on what we will call a pedestal. Make it a priority. The P is for prayer. E is for exercise. D is for darkness. Make sure the room is dark. E, make sure your stomach is empty before you go to bed. S, silence. Please do not look at television before you go to sleep. Time, take the time so that your body can relax, so that you can enjoy the quality rest. The A is for ear, and the L is to light from the sun. Okay? That is early in the morning when the light starts to shine in. So prayer. It is important that we understand the value of prayer. Very important that you pray before you go to sleep. Experts report that managing stress and prayer are closely linked. This is what they said. The expert report that managing stress and learning to relax impact our ability to sleep well. You see, when you pray, you're casting all your cares upon God, knowing that He is going to take care of you. So pray before you sleep. It would help you to get a better night's rest. Exercise. If you exercise regularly, it makes your rest more peaceful. You need to remember that exercising just before bedtime is not recommended because you are stimulating your body. But when you sleep, you want your body to relax. So if you're going to exercise, exercise at least 3 hours before you go to bed. Darkness. Turn off all the lights. Exposure to bright light, even a few moments, can lower your melatonin level. Let me say that again. Darkness is very important. Turn off all your lights. Exposure to even the night light for a few moments can lower your ability to produce melatonin. Empty your stomach. Eating before going to bed is a no-no. When your stomach has to work during the sleep cycle, your body is not going to enjoy the quality of rest. So avoid eating anything 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed. You should go to bed on an empty stomach so that you will enjoy quality sleep. Make sure your room is free of noise. When you are silent, you are better able to relax, and it eliminates stimulating activities before you go to bed. That is why the silence is important. The TV and all of those kind of things. You may want to think about just cutting back on those so that you can improve the quality of your rest. Time. Go to bed on time so that you can get the quality rest that you need. Maybe you may want to create a bedtime ritual. A warm bath, reading your Bible, praying, or meditating on something positive that happened to you during the day. Air. Make sure your room is cool and well ventilated. Open the windows, even in the winter. A little crack in the window would be very beneficial because as the air circulates, it helps your sleep to be improved. The light of the sun. The exposure to the sun early in the morning, early in the day, very, very important. Exposure to direct sunlight every day helps with your sleep at night. The body clock is most responsive to sunlight between 6 and 8:30 a.m. Typical indoor lighting has little effect. So getting out there and getting your sunlight is very, very important. And even the sunlight early in the morning as it comes through the window is beneficial to you as well. Periodic rest. Now this is very important. We cannot work all the time and do not take time for relaxation. Mark 6:31 says it this way. And he said unto them, Come ye yourself apart to the desert place and rest a while. When we rest, when we relax, we can improve our quality of life. So periodic rest is very important. Periodic rest is a very important aspect of our well-being. When we have that periodical rest, the heart rests between beats, the digestive system rests between meal, and even the brain rests from certain functions while we sleep. So this is very, very important. When we have periodic rest, what it actually does, this resting occasionally during the day or during a hectic period will prevent the body from breaking down sooner. And this kind of rest, if we do not get it, then we succumb to mental problems and physical distress. So during the day, having little periods when you just relax is very, very important. Also, taking time to have little vacation, time away from your regular activity is also very beneficial to your well-being. In addition to getting adequate sleep, taking time daily to relax, have some fun, lets your mind unwind as well as your body. Short naps can also help you to relax and restore your energy level. Weekly rest. Luke 4:16 says, And he came to Nazareth where he was brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. So that's the weekly rest. Once a week, taking time out for God. Now, Genesis 2:3 says, And God rested from all his work that he had created and made. Winston Churchill said in 1941, If we are to win this war, it will be by staying power. For this reason, we must have at least one day where we can come apart and rest a while. Or, as he says it, one holiday during the week. One day when we can come apart and rest a while. Matthew 11:28 and 29 says, Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. So we need to have a little time out from our hectic activities. Now, what are our action steps for key number 5? Maximum rest. Get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. Remember, during your rest, your body repairs. Be in bed by 9 p.m. so as to ensure that you are at least sleeping by 10. Remember, as I said in this presentation, between the hours of 10 p.m. and 12 midnight, the body does its greatest restorative work. 1 hour of sleep before midnight is equal to 2 hours of sleep after midnight. So, the importance of going to bed early. Rise up early in the morning. Students have reported that when they go to bed on time and they wake up in the morning, they feel refreshed and they're able to do better in terms of their grades, in terms of their ability to process information. Make sure that your room that you're sleeping in is totally dark, no computer light, no digital lights, because those lights prevent your body from producing the amount of melatonin which regulates your sleep-wake cycle. Do not watch TV before you go to bed. Now, make this a priority. Develop some routines for your sleep. Just before you go to sleep, decide exactly what you're going to do. Maybe read your Bible, read some religious book, think about some positive thoughts, pray, and then go to bed. When you do those things, you will be able to have maximum rest. This is crucial for optimizing your health. Include sunlight is the sixth key. We just discussed key number 5, which is maximum rest. Now we're going to move on to key number 6 to optimize our health, and that is include sunlight. Now you may be asking, what is sunlight? We have all experienced sunlight, but by definition, sunlight is a portion of the electromagnetic radiation that is given off by the sun. In particular, we are talking about infrared, visible, and ultraviolet lights. When these are on the earth, sunlight is filtered through the earth's atmosphere, and it is obvious as daylight when the sun is above the horizon. When the direct solar radiation is not blocked by clouds, it is experienced as sunlight, a combination of bright light and radiant heat. Sunlight is very, very important. As a matter of fact, it is one of God's gifts to man. It cheers our hearts and minds and strengthens the body. It provides it with vitamin D that stimulates the immune system, increases mental performance, and boosts our energy. Now listen to what the Word of God says in Ecclesiastes 11:7. Truly, the light is sweet and a pleasant thing. It is for the eyes to behold the sun. Ecclesiastes 11:7. There are but few who realize that in order to enjoy health and cheerfulness, they must have an abundance of sunlight, pure air, physical exercise. We pity the little children who are kept confined indoors when the sun is shining vigorously on the outside. And this is from the book Ministry of Healing. So it's important that children spend time outdoors enjoying the sunlight, because it would help their growth and it will help their bodies to function well. Now, listen to this. No room in the house should be considered furnished or adorned without the cheering, enlightening light and sunshine. These are heaven's free gifts to man. Listen to what the Word of God says. When God made our world and darkness was upon the face of the deep, He said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light that it was good. Shall we close our houses and exclude from them the light which God has pronounced good? So sunlight is very good for our bodies, and it's also good for our homes. When we allow sunlight to come into our homes, it is able to get rid of germs. And I want to say, very, very important, that we should make sure that our beds are exposed to the sunlight. And the reason for that is when we sleep at nights, we are perspiring, and the dampness creates an atmosphere for all kinds of germs to multiply. But when we expose our beds to sunlight, it is able to get rid of those germs that are on our bed. So we need to leave our windows open so that the sun can shine in, because it benefits not only our bodies personally, but it also benefits the room. It is able to get rid of all those toxins and germs that may be present. Now, even during the winter months, we should let the sun light in when there is any little sunlight. Leave the windows open. If the sun is penetrating just a wee little bit, make sure that you can benefit from that sun. When we do not get enough sunlight, we suffer from vitamin D deficiency. Now, how does this manifest itself? When we are deficient in vitamin D, we get sick and our body become infected. We feel fatigued and tired. This feeling of tiredness can have many causes, and one of them is vitamin D deficiency. Our bones become achy, our backs may become achy as well. We can suffer depression, impairment in the healing of wounds, or we can suffer bone loss, hair loss, and muscle loss. Also very, very important, vitamin D deficiency puts us at risk for all kinds of diseases. Now remember that vitamin D is what stimulates your immune system, one of those very important vitamins. So especially at this time when we are going through the pandemic, it makes a lot of good sense to boost up on your vitamin D, because it would strengthen your immune system so that you wouldn't get sick. Vitamin D is necessary for strong bones because it helps the body use up the calcium in our diet. Vitamin D deficiency has been associated with things like rickets, and that is a disease in which the bone tissue doesn't properly mineralize, and this can lead to soft bone, skeletal deformity, etc. But research is increasingly seeing the importance of vitamin D in protecting against a host of different diseases like multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, etc. So let the sun shine in. In a physical way, it would help your health, and let the sun of righteousness shine in your heart. It would help you to enjoy spiritual well-being. Sunlight has many distinct benefits. It helps with our bone. It is anti-cancer, supports our immune system, protects against dementia and brain aging. It is good for losing excess fat, and it's essential for decreasing symptoms of asthma. It also strengthens our teeth. So here you have it. Vitamin D from the sunlight, very, very important. Did you know that vitamin D also plays a very important role, a pivotal role, I may say, in lowering our cholesterol? Sunlight lowers the cholesterol. The sun is able to convert high cholesterol in the blood into steroid hormones and sex hormones, and we need this for reproduction. In the absence of sunlight, the opposite happens. These substances convert the cholesterol, and that is where we have lots of problems with obesity. Sunlight also lowers the blood pressure. The sun's rays lower the blood pressure. Even a single exposure significantly lowers blood pressure in individuals who over the years have experienced high blood pressure. On the other hand, pharmaceutical drugs such as statins have side effects, and they rob the body of the coenzyme Q10 that is so essential for cellular and heart energy. So, rather than taking these statins for your high blood pressure, why not go out into the sun and enjoy the rays of the sun? In that way, you can stabilize your blood pressure. Now, we also notice that sunlight has a cleansing effect. What does it do to your blood and your blood vessel? Sunlight penetrates deep into the skin to cleanse the blood and the blood vessels. And this is from a medical journal published in Europe. It shows also that it helps with arteriosclerosis, which is the hardening of the arteries. Sun exposure is beneficial all around for your blood and your blood vessels. It also increases oxygen. Sunlight increases the oxygen content of the human blood, and it also enhances the body's capacity to deliver oxygen to the tissues of the body. Very similar to the effect of exercise, the sun has a great effect on your stamina. It helps with your fitness and your muscular development. Sunlight also builds your immune system. We are told that the white blood cells which increases with sun exposure. The white blood cells, which are called the lymphocytes, they increase, as I said before, with exposure to sunlight. And these play a major part in helping your body defend itself against various infections. Sunlight also helps with growth and height. Regular sunlight exposure is important for children because it helps them with their growth and development, especially little babies. Periodically, their parents should take them outdoor to get some sunlight because it would help them to develop. Now, many cultures throughout history recognize this fact, and studies have proven that cultures or families that spend a lot of time outdoors and enjoy sunlight, they see better outcomes as it relates to growth and development of children. Sunlight has a direct relationship to depression. Now, the noon sunshine can deliver as much as 100,000 LUX. That is the measurement they use to determine the sunlight, the quality of the sunlight or the extent of the sunlight. When we sit in offices for the better part of the day out of the sun, on the neon or artificial lights, we actually are getting 150 to 600 LUX as compared to 100,000 that we can receive from using the sunlight. When we do that, we are depriving ourselves of the illumination of nature. Sunlight deprivation can cause a condition called seasonal affective disorder or SAD. Sunlight actually causes you to be sad. SAD is a form of depression. It is more common during the winter months, but also common in people who work for long hours and don't go outside to enjoy the sunlight. Now, the exposure to the sun should be done slowly. If you are not used to the sun, then your skin will be more sensitive to it. Avoid sunburns by building up your tolerance to sunlight slowly. Now, the best time to enjoy quality sunlight is between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. That is when the rays of the sun is not too sharp that can cause damage to your skin. Lack of sunlight. Lack of sunlight can cause lots of problems. The long, dark days of winter, hours spent indoor and in front of television and computer, or excessive use of sunscreen can also result in a lack of exposure to the sun. Not only your tan suffers, in actuality your health may also be affected. Lack of sunlight can affect the body both physically, mentally, and emotionally. Sunlight and vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D is a nutrient that is important for the maintenance of a healthy body, and it promotes strong bones and a healthy immune system. Vitamin D is produced when the skin is exposed to sun, and thus the lack of sun exposure can result in low vitamin D levels. Lack of vitamin D can lead to muscle and joint pain. And doctors have documented a correlation between vitamin D deficiency and increased instances of heart attack, stroke, and heart failure, as well as multiple sclerosis. Those with dark skin living in the northern location are most susceptible to vitamin D deficiency. It would mean then that dark-skinned people would have to spend a longer time in the sun so that vitamin D can be created. This is because of the pigmentation of our skin. Now, I talked before of SAD, that is Seasonal Affective Disorder, or SAD. SAD is a form of depression triggered by the lack of sunlight. People are most affected by this, as I said before, during the winter months. And this affects a number of things. It affects your sleep pattern, your energy level. Lack of sunlight causes you to be fatigued. It causes you maybe to want to overeat, anxiety, you experience mood swings, and all of these things affect your overall health. People who are suffering from SAD, or seasonal affective disorder, also are suffering from other things, and they are more prone to illnesses and infections because their immune system is weakened. The effect of SAD may vary from person to person. While some people experience only mild symptoms, others experience severe symptoms. The treatment for SAD include light boxes, antidepressant, and therapy. In most cases, SAD symptoms disappear with spring and the return of the sunlight. So when the weather is nice, get on the outside. Even in winter time, you can go outside and enjoy a little bit of the fresh air, because the fresh air goes along with the sunlight. Now, changes in sleep pattern can also be affected when we don't get enough sunlight. The lack of exposure to sun may also affect our sleep pattern. Exposure to sun helps the body determine when to release the hormone called melatonin. Melatonin helps to regulate the body, and it locks it kind of what we would call modify the sleep-wake cycle. Melatonin helps to regulate the body's internal clock by signaling when it's time to go to bed. In a 5-day study performed in New York State with children, it was found that children who were given glasses that block the blue light from emitting from the sun rays, that these children over time, they had less melatonin. And the less melatonin that they had affected their ability to sleep at night. When they went to bed, on an average, half an hour later, their body was not able to experience the rest that they needed. So, lack of sunlight can affect your sleep pattern. Now, when we get enough vitamin D, it is very, very important, as I said before, because it improves your immune function. Vitamin D is so very important to the functioning of our bodies that it's important that you ask your doctor to periodically do a vitamin D level test. I thought my vitamin D level was really fine, but when I asked the doctor to do my vitamin D level test, I discovered that my vitamin D level was actually 9, and the required level is 30 to 100. I wasn't feeling any symptoms, but if I allowed that to continue for a prolonged period of time, definitely my immune system would have been compromised. The test that you need to ask your doctor to perform is what we call the 25-hydroxy D test. 25-hydroxy D test. The vitamin D levels should actually be 30 to 100. If one has a sickness or a disease that is associated with vitamin D deficiency, then your level should be above 40. Now, the doses that you need to take to boost your vitamin D level is vitamin D3. In particular, you need to take 2,000 to 5,000 IUs. Let me repeat that. Vitamin D3, take 2,000 to 5,000 IU as a supplementation. And vitamin D2, you need to take 3,000 to 6,000 daily. So we need to take both D3 and D2. The D3, 2,000 to 5,000 IUs, and the D2, 3,000 to 6,000 IUs daily. If one's level is less than 20, then the doctor would prescribe therapeutic levels, which goes up to 50,000 IUs for the week, and the doctor would have you take that over an 8-week period just to boost up your vitamin D level. Then after that is done, you should ask the doctor to get retested, because if the levels become inadequate, it means that something is happening in your body that is not utilizing the vitamin D as it should. If your level remains below 20, then your doctor may want to repeat that therapeutic regimen. And the therapeutic regimen, again, is 50,000 IUs of vitamin D per week, and that goes over an 8-week period. So vitamin D is very important because that is what builds up your immune system and causes your body to function at optimum, trying to resist all the germs and bacteria and microbes and so forth that want to cause you to get sick. How can you combat the problem of not having enough sun exposure? It is possible to combat this by making sure you go out of doors. The earliest way, or the easiest way, to do this is to safely increase your sun exposure. This means going outdoor on sunny days, opening your drapes so that the sun shine in. Use the recommended amount of sunscreen to prevent overexposure, but avoid overusing sunblocks, as this can prevent your body from reaping the benefit of the exposure to the sun. During the winter months, you can combat the lack of sunshine by using light box and by exercising to fight off things like fatigue and depression. You may also combat vitamin D deficiency by taking vitamin D supplementation. Now, it is very important that we realize that lack of sunlight is associated by something that is called ectodermal pigmentation, or XP. This is a genetic disorder, and in this genetic disorder, there is decreased ability to repair DNA damage, such as that caused by ultraviolet light. And symptoms of this disease are severe sunburn after only a few minutes in the sun, freckles in the sun when exposed, dry skin, and changes in skin pigmentation. So if you notice some changes in your skin, you may want to talk to your doctor. You may be experiencing ectodermal pigmentation. All right? So think about that. What is the action plan for key number 6? Increase sunlight. Get enough sunlight. When the weather is good, go on the outdoors. Enjoy the sun. Let the sun shine in. You will get a lot of benefits from it. Let sunlight into your home. It destroys germs. Get your vitamin D level checked at least once a year. And also, very important, spend time with the Sun of Righteousness. He is the one that brings peace and tranquility into our lives. Sun is important, but the Sun of Righteousness is even more important. So here we have it. Key number 6, increase sunlight. Thanks for joining us for episode number 3, where we talked about 2 very important keys. We talked about increased sunlight, and we talked about maximize rest. I'm looking forward for you joining us for our 4th and final segment, and that would be a live segment. So remember to join us. Thank you so very much for joining us for our third episode. Today, we looked at two very important keys: maximize rest and increase sunlight. Our next episode will be our final, which would be on June 27. In that episode, our fourth and final episode, we will explore key number 7 and 8, Z, ZAP on healthful habits, and the final key, E, exercise daily. We are looking forward to you joining us for the final episode, because remember, our goal is to optimize our health.